Hi, Chapter 49 of Gold Cord by Amy Carmichael, Prelude to Chapter 49. It is possible to sing, "My all is on the altar," and yet be unprepared to sacrifice a ring from one's finger, or a picture from one's wall, or a child from one's family for the salvation of the heathen. Hudson Taylor. You have chosen the roughest road, but it goes straight to the hilltops. John Buchan. When the door opens, we ought to press in, sacrificing our lives if need be for God, as the Muslims did at Khartoum for their prophet. Of course it costs life. It is not an expedition of ease, nor a picnic excursion to which we are called. It is going to cost many a life, and not lives only, but prayers and tears and blood. Dr. Sweemer. Battles are won by teaching soldiers how to die, not how to avoid dying. Biography of Marshal Foch by Major General Sir George Aston. Cape Comorin. There is no footprint on the sand where India meets her sapphire sea. But, Lord of all this ancient land, dost thou not walk the shore with me? And yet a goddess holds her state along the frontiers of the sea. She keeps the road, she bars the gate against thy tender majesty. O purer than the flying spray, O brighter than the sapphire sea, when will she turn and flee away, and India walk her shore with thee? Chapter 49, The Great Undone. On a day of some travail of spirit, a letter came from John Risk, a young naval officer who joined us in 1928, who, with our Indian brother, Caruth, was spending a fortnight in a pilgrim lodging house near one of the great sea temples of the South. There, from the floor of Hindu life, seeing, hearing, entering into that which is closed to the casual sightseer, John Risk wrote, "What words can ever tell what the place is like where Satan's seat is? It is like nothing but Satan himself. It was as though the flames of hell itself came up and scorched away the daub of respectable missionary Christianity with which our eyes had been blinded and our comprehension dulled," he said afterwards, still burning with that memory. And he wrote of the sound of feet, feet, feet that he heard as he lay on his mat at night, listening to the people trooping from the railway station to the temple. There is no other road there, just the one from station to temple. The noise of their talking, the crying of little children, the sound of the carts and the shouts of the drivers could be heard in the stillness of the night. And the thought came of the gap on the edge of the precipice, and how there was only one road, and they were following it because they knew no other, and of how it led them to destruction, to be robbed and spoiled and sent away empty. Who shall measure the grief and the shame as day by day the two men saw the glory due to the Lord of hosts given to another? And that other's name, whole streets around the temple were defiled by the traffic that is bound up in the minds of thousands of worshipers with the very words, Temple Festival. They are sold like little kids, a pitiful Indian woman had said to us a year before in speaking of the young girls in her own city, a wicked little city in a native state where that traffic had flourished for ages. I have gone from mission to mission asking if nothing can be done for them, the broken things, but no one can do anything. No one can begin anything new now. When she said this, 2 or 3 of us were with her by the roadside, near a wide expanse of moonlit water. The hills were in mist behind. As we looked across the water, we seemed to see the form of one walking there, in the mist, seeking these young lost things who had been sold like little kids. and he was quite alone. We were all quiet for a while. There was only the sound of the softly lapping water. Then we promised her that we would not refuse such broken things if she brought them to us. And so what is growing into a special work began, and we thanked God as we thought of those streets around that temple, that we had been given the opened ear that evening, and now we were all to hear another call. I said that the time was one of some travail. This was because several of us had been driven to pray along the lines of the command, "Spare not, lengthen thy cords, and strengthen thy stakes." And those responsible for the conduct of the work realized what was contained in such a prayer. Our family of about 500 was only part of that which had been committed to our care. We knew how far we were from doing thoroughly all that should be done, and superficial work is pretense of the worst sort. How then attempt more? For those at the heart of things, the spiritual responsibilities of the day did not end with the day, and often the call on strength and time began very early in the morning, so that to get quiet alone with God meant rising too early, so it seemed, for health. How stretch the cords further? But these Hindus and their hundreds of thousands, these 100,000 Muslims, all but at our doors, how not do more for them? And then she has a side note at the bottom from the International Review of Missions. Perhaps the most startling fact about the unoccupied territory in India from the Christian standpoint is that India's villages numbered nearly 750,000, whereas the returns show that no more than 39,000 villages have Christians living there. And we know that very many of the Christians are themselves unlighted candles. To do more meant that we must ask for more workers. Pray ye therefore the Lord of the harvest, that he may send forth laborers into his harvest. If we prayed, they would be sent. How could we refuse to pray? And supplies? We have 3 funds, one called Comforts, not meant for present requirements, another made up of earmarked gifts for the new hospital now being built, and the third, a current account which usually holds provision for a few months' life, necessary because foodstuffs have to be bought in bulk for the sake of economy some time ahead. The accounts of the last 6 months read thus in rupees, anna, and pies. So gifts and legacies came to 64,250. The general expenses were 64,249. Gifts and legacies exceeded expenditures by 10 annas, 11 pies, something under a shilling. But how much more than a mere coin was that shilling? And yet 1 shilling in about 5,000 pounds could not be called a large excess. Looked at just as a shilling, it was not much to encourage advance. And very little was coming in. Everywhere there was straitness and financial confusion, and letters from home were not reassuring. But we have never yet built on any rock of earth, so these forbiddings appeared to us like beckonings. But men and women? We were in touch with none of the kind required for either stakes or cords. Careless prayer is presumption. Commanded prayer is obedience. It was the old word once more. Lord, if it be thou, if. At last, and the time was the evening hour of our prayer day, we sang these words together. Lord God of all the great undone, they live by faith who with thee dwell. For thou dost turn the flinty stone into a springing well. Lord God of doors we cannot pass, we go where thou art leading on, for thou dost break the bars of brass and cut the bars of iron. And then we prayed for men and women to strengthen the center, the stakes. thy tent pins make thou fast, is Rotherham's translation. And for others, the cords to spread forth our curtains in medical, Muslim, Hindu, and for the funds required for new outgoings. And we ask that none should come save those who were of the order of Epaphroditus. The date of that prayer was August 6th, 1931. End of chapter 49. God bless you. Thank you for listening. Please tell others if you're enjoying this book.